So my mother brought me all these curtains from my great-grandmother, and I decided to do something out of it. So I started with sketching. So that's what I came up with. I guess it looks pretty nice. But little did I know, it turned out completely different, like always. The skirt I wanted to make out of the curtains. The top I wanted to make out of some scrap material I used for a golden prom dress I made last year. On top of that, I wanted to cut out the pattern that was on the curtains, make it stronger with some wire, and sew it onto my bodice. On top of that, I found some old necklaces where I wanted to use the beads to sew them onto my dress. Cut out a piece of paper so you can pin it onto your dress form or yourself. To create a pattern for your bodice, just draw onto your piece of paper so it looks like your design. Cut them out and add more pieces until you have your whole bodice. Until they look like this. Now pin them onto an old bedsheet and cut them out. You will need this for your first layer. Sew them together until you already have a cute top. This is the best lining ever. If you ever consider to buy a lining, don't. Buy an old bedsheet. Now to the boning. I use these zip ties because they're way cheaper. To attach them, use an extra stripe of material and sew them over your seam, so your zip tie still fits inside. Do that to all of your seams and cut the extra. Now it should look like this. Cut out the exact same pattern out of your top material. Now sew them together and leave open the back, like with the lining. I found these golden elastic bands in my mess, and I want to use them as my straps. Lay your lining on top of your top material, right side on right side. Add your straps at the peak and sew them together. Now cut the extra allowance. Now open it up and top stitch the allowance to your lining, so everything will stay in place neatly. Here's what it looks so far. For that stupid shit I wanted to sew on top of my bodice that took me 3 times as long as the dress itself, cut out the pattern from the curtain. Get your necklaces, get the pearls off, and start beading and beading for hours. But if you don't want to do that and don't want to waste your time like I did, then don't. I have to admit though that it looks quite nice and it was very meditative. I also just watched a movie, well maybe 3 movies, but then add the wire and sew them onto your branches. Oh, here we go, I just finished my 3rd movie. Since our bodice is still open on the side, sew together but only to the next seam, because we need the back open still. Trim it, and top stitch the lining to the allowance again. Voila! Beautiful! To complete this thingy, I cut small pieces and glued it to the back, so there was no extra material around. I used this fabric glue, but then I got sick of everything, so I decorated my wall. I might want to use this as inspiration for a collection I want to do sometime. I would call it Fall Asleep at 2 a.m. I don't know why I decided that at 4 in the morning, so yeah. after days, I finally finished this beauty. But it would stand over my shoulder, so I needed something for the back because it looked quite ugly from behind. I used this fabric because it had some stiffness to it and it was just plain white. So I cut it out and glued it to the fabric. So this is what it looks like to my bodice. And it was a lot of work, but it doesn't look like I want it to. So I decided not to use it on my bodice like that. And now to the skirt. I had to remove these curtain rings. And then I folded the material in half and pinned it to my bodice. So I knew I would only need the half, which was good. So I cut it in half. Then pleat your skirt fabric to your bodice. I left a slit in the front. Make sure that all your pleats are equally long and secured really good. Also, in the back, you will need some space to cut a straight line down. You will need that for the zip. Measure on yourself how long you need the straps to be and pin them onto your bodice. Then finally, sew the top of your bag together. Now cut the skirt into 2 pieces at the back. Now it's time to sew your skirt to your bodice. Wow, I have never seen a prom dress like this. I think I look rather royal. If there's still some extra boning, cut it because that can hurt you. Rip open about 1 inch where your skirt meets your bodice because you don't want to sew the lining to your zip. Now sew your zip to your top material and your skirt. But then as I put it on, I noticed my top looked really weird. So I decided I would have to make some pleats on the side. Yeah, that looks much better. Then my brother made my poor cat dizzy. I just could not film. It looks really funny. Since you could see the extra length of my straps in the back, I cut them. Yeah, well, that wasn't that easy with only one hand. And then hand sew the lining to your zip so it looks nice and neat from the inside. If you haven't noticed yet, yes, that's right, our back is still open. To sew it together, put a so-called Tutsi, well that's what it's called if you directly translate the German word into the English word, onto your machine, and sew it together. The only thing that is still missing now is the length. For the front part, I used curtains that were already hemmed. But for the back I wanted it to be a little longer, so I needed a curve. I cut it out, and then I rolled my seam over, pinned it down, and sewed over it. Now there's still an open part at the side. Just sew that together. Now I have a question for you. Have you ever wondered how giraffes fight? Well, I have.
Le jeune pense qu'il a sa chance. Il attaque.
king of tack. I have laughed over this for hours with my friend. So then we decided we have to try that too.
20 minutes in warm water, your oats will look something like this. And then you want to run the soaked oats with the water through a strainer to discard the water.
Now back to the dress. Since I had this thing that I worked on for days, but I didn't want to put it on my dress, I thought, let's eat some pizza and make a hat out of the pizza cartons. For that, draw a circle of how big you want your hat to be. Then inside of that, draw another smaller circle. That's where your hat will be. But if you want your hat to fit, make it a little bigger than mine. Now cut out the outer circle. That's when I realized my hat didn't really fit, but whatever. When you cut out your inner circle, make sure to leave some extra so you can glue your cylinder to it. For that, cut out the stripe as high as you want your hat to be, plus some extra. Bend your stripes really good, so they will fit around perfectly. Mine was too short, so I just cut out another one with the same height. Glue them together. Measure out where to cut the excess and glue it together. Now glue the spikes to your cylinder. Now place your hat onto some cardboard and trace the circle. Glue that onto your hat, like so. In the cellar, I found this golden spray bottle for Christmas, so I used it to spray my hat, on the top and on the bottom. My hat didn't look really good still though, so I found some lace and made some lace flowers. For that, find a piece of lace or other material, sew it together on the sides, hand sew around the edge with a very loose stitch and pull it together. Voila, you have a flower. Here I made another one, a smaller one, but this time it wasn't a lace, just a material, so you will need twice the length. For the hat, I found this lace. I thought it looked quite nice on top, so I just glued it onto my head like so. The finished product with everything. Whoa, what's that? Oh, that's right. It's prom at home.